Oh, goodness. I need to change my camera. Do, 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 do. Not the iPhone camera. Ha! Don't want to use the USB. We'll use FaceTime HD. There we go. Hey, good morning. It's Tuesday, January 7th, and I am Rob, also known as that developer dad. And I'm building various applications using .NET. I have a product that I've produced over the past, I think I started work on this at the beginning of July of last year. And I built the backend, the AI stuff, a Blazor front end for it, and I've got it all hosted up in Azure. It's just in a free app service tier right now, but I'll be porting that over to probably the basic plan to start very, very soon. And I'm building the backend system that is going to automate all of the businessy stuff that handles everything that needs to happen when a person comes in and says, "Hey, I want to use this. Clickety click. Here's some money. Let me in." And I've kind of been chipping away at this during streams, primarily only for the past couple of months. And Lemon Squeezy has finally approved the store for public use. Once all of my homework is done, I believe the store is currently still in test mode, and so I'm working on. I've got the actual steps that execute the business processes written. Now I'm working on building the integration point between that back end code that communicates with Entra and my data stores and all of that stuff. And I need to build sort of a public interface. So let's flip over to the main screen here. And before I start diving into the code itself, because today we're going to start building out the API that provides access to the use cases. What I want to do is just very quickly describe the architecture of how these calls are going to come in and be placed and so on and so forth. So we're just going to start with a blank PowerPoint presentation here. Here we are. And I'll get rid of the designer. We don't need that. And we'll delete this stuff. Just a plain empty old canvas, okay? So let's grab a cloud shape. Now let's grab a smiley face. I'm going to put a smiley face right here. That's my user. And then where's the shapes? Grab this. This is the app. Well, this is their browser. We'll say this is their user's device. And then we've got the DM's familiar server right here. And then out here, over here, we've got a happy little cloud, which exists on the internet. Online store. And then we've got the admin backend service. And finally, I'm just going to draw a little cam. DM's familiar data stores accounts. The data store for accounts. All right. So this guy, pretty much complete. The logic, anyway. That I've just collapsed it all. UI, logic, storage, access, all of that stuff. It's all in here. So I need to add an API. I want to change the color on this because I like using greens for front end or client apps. And actually, I'm going to copy, paste that, bring it over here. Hey, what's up, Mars? App.dmfam is over there. It's a Blazor app. And I really ought to use black text on pale colors. Admin API, black text. And these guys are going to be hosted in an Azure app service. And we'll send this fella to the back. And let's make these guys a dark orange because I like orange. I'm using PowerPoint right now to describe the overall architecture and deployment for this software that I'm building. Now, let's go home, and the text needs to go at the bottom, and Azure App Service Plan. Now, I don't want to publish this administrative API on the public internet. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to create an Azure Function app. And let's make this orange. Whoops. Make it that brown color. Function app. Webhook. Receiver. So, when the user interacts with the online store, it's going to send a webhook call. Where's my shapes? So the user will interact with the online store, which will send a webhook call once their purchase finishes. The webhook call is going to authenticate that the inbound request is actually coming from the online store. And then once it's validated that the inbound request is legit, it's going to call my admin API. You can't really see it because I'm using blue on blue, which is, I don't know why it does this, but let's make all these arrows black. Do, 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 do. Black, I say. No, let's make them green. Can't really see that either. Here we go. It's a little bit blinding, but whatever. This is just a sketch. It doesn't matter. Now, this admin API is going to receive the notification that this person has just signed up for a subscription, their payment's gone through, do the things. And then I've already got the logic written in the back end to provision their account, set up their AI token quotas, set up their storage quotas, all of that stuff, and add them to the necessary MS Entra groups. And let's just drop MS Entra over here. MS Entra. MS Entra, if you're not aware, is Microsoft's new brand name for Azure Active Directory. And I'm using the business to customer version. And there we go. And then, of course, our Admin Backend service does all the communication with this, with the data store, and Entra. So I've got this. I've got the beginnings of this. I did some research yesterday after the afternoon stream, and I actually figured out how to host an Azure Function app on my MacBook, and using an online service called Ngrok. They have a free tier, Ngrok. Ngrok. I'm putting that in the chat. Allows you to run cloud-based functions, Azure Functions, AWS Lambdas, etc., etc. Same idea locally, and provides a internet-based proxy address that can be provided to third-party systems as webhooks. And so when an event happens in the third-party system, the online store, it calls that address that Ngrok has created. Ngrok forwards that down a secure tunnel to my laptop, and I can step through the code that executes inside my webhook receiver. I'm not ready to step through that yet. I just want to kind of go through the architecture of how I'm doing everything. Today, I want to start focusing on this API. So, I don't need to save that. Let's take a look at Program CS. And let's kind of dissect this. This is using the .NET Core minimal API concept. So just like for any standard ASP.NET Core web application, I asked it not to use top-level statements because I don't like them. And I don't think we're using global usings either. At least I hope not. Let's take a look at properties, launch settings, not worried about that. Let's take a look at this. Implicit usings, I want to disable these right the frick now. And I don't like implicit usings because what it does is it sets up some JSON file that lists out all of the dependencies that are commonly used throughout the project. And when I look at a code file, I want to be able to see all of the things that it's importing or that are being imported in that code file. Now I've got a little bit of red anger code here. We'll resolve this right now. So we're going to use Microsoft ASP.NET Core Builder. We'll add all of this stuff, DI, add OpenAI, add this stuff, HTTP context. We need to add ASP.NET Core, blah, blah, blah. We're going to bring in system link. We got to bring in the system namespace. And there we go. So we could save this, and we should be able to debug this. Start new instance. Oh, we have build failures. No, you stink. Let's see what else I've screwed up. Here we go. Oh yeah, it's over in the weather forecast class. We got to add using system. Save. Let's try it again. Start new instance. You can go now. It's going to give me the URL in a second. Where are you? Excuse me. Now listening on HTTP localhost 5083. I'm going to copy this, and the address for the weather forecast endpoint, it's a get/weather forecast. Let's pop open a new Safari window. Boop. Here we are. Paste the address in here. And let me pull this down so you can see the address bar as I type into it. So we're going to make the API call, and boom, we have the JSON results. It's an array of made-up weather forecasts straight out of the API. And that's just something that Microsoft builds into their minimal API templates. Nothing earth-shattering. It's all pretty cool. So I need to grab a couple of things out of the test console app. Namely, I got to come into appsettings.json. I think I can grab damn near everything. Let's take a look at what's in here. Oh, there's very little in here. Okay, I got to leave allowed hosts. But let's grab this. And I want to grab this architecture node. And I'm just going to come down here and grab the whole darn thing. And is that my architecture node? It is. So let's copy this. Zip up into program, or app settings rather. This is what I want. And allowed hosts. Paste in my architecture node. Groovy. Now, I need to add some dependencies. I don't have any added yet. We're going to add those right now. I guess I have to do it here. Add project reference. The very first thing we're going to add is that developerdad.ifx. All right. There's dependency number 1. Project reference. I need sysadmin ifx. I need the account manager. We're going to need catalog abstractions. Catalog hard-coded. And you know what? This is a pain in the neck. Let's close out of this. Close out of this. Let's open this guy up. So we got that. Let's hide that. And I'm going to come down here to my test console. I need these guys. We'll add all of that stuff because we are going to need those. And then I'm going to come down here and we'll grab all of these. I'm just going to overwrite these. Bloop. Paste. there's all that stuff. Okay, Entra B2C, rules access. We're not using rules access. We really don't need it yet because I'm not really using it for anything. And then I'm going to pop down here and I want to grab the .env, which doesn't exist yet. Actually, I'm going to grab this whole item group node. And paste that there. Save. I feel like that's enough. Next thing I got to do is reveal this guy in my Finder. Copy this. Close. Come into clients. Reveal in the Finder. Paste him here. Okay, good. And let's make sure. I'm going to pull this off screen right now because it's actually got some secrets that I don't want to share. So bear with me for just a second. Okay, default endpoints protocol, tenant ID, client secrets, blah, 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 blah. Good. Now, this guy, I want to come in here. We're going to add that .env to the gitignore right now. Now let's pull this back down so that you can see what I'm doing. There we go. Good. So that's all that. Now let's try building. Just going to close the stuff. We've got all of our things. Close up the dependencies for now. And let's run it. Start new instance. Still listening on 5173? Where are you? Come on, dopey. Sometimes. $50.83. Localhost 5083. Weather forecast. Make it so, engage. Good. We still have our weather forecast coming up. Great. So let's hit stop. Now, over in my test program, I've got a few steps that I'm taking here. So let's do this. And because we're using a minimal API, over here, I'm going to add a new file. It's going to be a class, endpoint, extensions. Okay. Now, app is a web application. This is going to become a static class. Public static web application. And let's fix up the angry code. Add webhook endpoints. Here we go. Not quite where we're going yet, but we'll get there. Let's say, I believe we can add endpoint groups, app dot, not that, map controllers, we're not using controllers. Map group. And the pattern that prefixes all routes in this group. So, what do we need in the parameters on this bad boy? Prefix is going to be /hooks. What are you complaining about? It takes, no thing takes 2 arguments. Okay, fine. GitHub Copilot went a little crazy. Got a little over eager, as it do. Map group hooks. Now, how do I use it? Takes in the prefix, +1 overload. All right, fine. Let's do this. Copilot, editor inline chat, explain. That's not what I want it to do. Get out of there. Defines a static class. Yeah. I don't want you to explain my code, you silly goose. Web application. All right. Talk to me. We're going to use Bing AI. And they're like, people are like, Rob, Bing? Seriously? I'm like, yeah, seriously. If I want to use an AI assistant and I want to talk specifically about Microsoft products, ASP.NET Core Web Application Builder dot map group. So if I need to ask an AI a question and it's specific to the Microsoft stack, I'm going to use Microsoft's AI. And it's GPT-4 behind the scenes, but it's got access to all of the Microsoft Learn stuff and all of those things. So let's see here. Allows you to define and group routes in a more structured and organized manner. This could be particularly blah, blah, blah. var group equals app. Okay, yeah. Defining routes within the group. Okay, cool. So let's come in here and what does this return? It returns a route group builder. So I'm going to say route group builder webhook routes equals. All right. Now this guy, we got to bring that in. And instead of doing map post / webhook, I am going to say webhook routes map post, and I'm going to say, going to call it process store event. Excuse me. Save. It's going to take in the HTTP context with the context, blah, blah, blah. Processed store event. Okay. Another webhook that I'm getting ready to work on, or that I'll be working on in a second step, but I know I need it, is webhook routes dot map post / process Entra event. Nope. Process new Entra sign up. And then it does this async blah blah blah. Okay, so that adds our webhook endpoints. And it doesn't really do, these don't do anything yet. So I'm going to need the service collection. Well, let's not get there yet. Let's come out to, I'm going to close this for the time being, come out to program.cs. And instead of all this stuff, I am going to app dot add webhook endpoints, save, and for now, let's just map these as gets. All right, because I want to hit them and make sure that they're getting added to my API correctly. We're going to switch these back to posts in a few minutes. So let's run. Debug, start new instance. And I'm just adding a little bit of code, and then I'm running it to make sure it does what I intended it to do. So let's come back out here. And there's another file in here. Oh, it doesn't automatically update. Nope, not really concerned about that. Let's come into the endpoint extensions. So I got to go /hooks / process store event. Process store event. Fantastic. And let's grab that function name. V And there we go. All right. REST purists are probably freaking out right now. I am not creating a REST API. I am doing remote procedure. I'm doing a RPC style API that just happens to currently use HTTP and JSON. That's where it starts and ends. It's not REST. I am not creating endpoints for different resources or for different resource types with get, post, put, patch, delete, etc. I am not doing representational state transfer. And my camera is not on. Ha! That's okay. Y'all don't really need to see my ugly face. But let's bring my camera back. I had to loan the USB camera that I've been using to my son, who had a video appointment this morning. And he needed to be cameras on screen. So our endpoints are responding. Pretty cool. Now we're going to have some other endpoints. So public, static. I don't care about the weather forecast endpoint. Add administrative. That's not really descriptive, is it? Add standard application endpoints. Let's drop some comments on these as to what each method means. Not what it does, not the what, but the why. These API endpoints are for called by, excuse me, the webhook receivers. Hey, that's fine. It's going okay. Called by the webhook receivers after the event arrives and the webhook invocation has been validated as coming from a trusted source. Because webhook authentication is a little bit willy-nilly. It's a lot weird. So endpoint extensions. What's all this stuff doing? Oh, yeah. We're going to need link eventually in here anyway, so let's just do that. We're going to rip this weather forecast nonsense out. Save. And I'm going to come out to Program CS. Do I still have the summaries up in here? I do. So let's get rid of these summaries. Goodbye. And this is something that kind of bugs me about this sample code from Microsoft a lot of the times, is they'll put stuff into their project and item templates that really isn't a best practice. Now, the code that I just deleted that sets up the data type for the summaries collection and does the weather forecast logic right inside the endpoint. Yes, it works. Yes, it's fast to throw together. Um, and it's literally just vomiting code out and vomiting out functionality. And it's probably not the most it's not the best way to build software that way, to just vomit the functionality out as quickly as you can. When you know that you're gonna have to make changes to it later. API endpoints are called by the product application or the admin application as needed. There is no admin application. And we've got our summaries, blah, blah, blah. So we've got add application endpoints. It's being invoked. Groovy. These next methods are defined in endpoint extensions.cs. Save. Cool. Let's run it. Make sure I can still hit all three of my endpoints. So we're spinning it up. Oh, something explode. IO exception, failed to bind address. Address is already in use. Dir. Okay, fine. Stop. Oh, I bet. I've got a old CPU only laptop that our oldest has had acquired at some point years ago. It's got a GPU in it, but it's from like 2016, so it's not CUDA capable. And so I'm running Phi 3 Mini on it, and it does okay. It's not super slow, but it's not like cloud speed by any stretch of the imagination. Um, and it's done it does the trick when I want to do sort of basic research. My MacBook M2, it's only got 8 GB of RAM, and that's shared between video and CPU and neural processing units. And it actually runs Phi 3 Mini faster than the 24 GB RAM only laptop that I have. But I'll use that laptop as a non-AI server for workloads like Redis or databases or messaging or what have you, so that I can kind of conserve the RAM on the Mac for the LLM and my front end, sort of in my home lab. Once I am either employed again or am making ridiculous amounts of money with the DMs familiar, ho ho ho, I will probably gift myself a beefier lab machine. NVIDIA has some new ones coming out in March. 128 GB of RAM. It's got the new AI processor in it. I just saw a news article about it earlier today, and yeah, it's a sexy AI lab. Okay, we processed our store event, and let's come out to weather forecast, and there we go. CPU only computer, 2012 Mac Mini. Yeah, the 2012 Mac Mini, that was what? I think that's a Core 2. Yeah, it's an Intel Core 2 something or other, or it might have been one of the yeah, okay, yeah, that's right. They'd migrated over to the I series processors by 2012. That's right. Those were solid little machines, man. Those were really solid machines. I'm running an M2 right now, and I love it. It does pretty much everything I need it to do. It doesn't do some things very quickly because when I bought it, I was an idiot and said, "Yeah, just give me the 8 GB RAM model," and I should have just said, "Heck with it, give me 24 or 32 gigs." Um, but this little laptop, it's going to do me for a good while, a good while. It's only, I think, 2 years old at this point. I love it, and I expect to get at least another 2, 3 years of day to day use out of it. All right, so that's all pretty cool. So let's bring in the actual architecture. So we've got builder web app, create builder args. We're adding authorization. Oh, nice. Yeah. Yeah. If you've got a decent sized hard drive and a respectable amount of RAM, you can use those things forever. Had they moved over to SSD by 2012, or are they still using platter drives in those lines? Oh, nice. Like if it's using a platter drive, you might run into some trouble um, because you can run into mechanical failure after years of use. But even SSDs run into decay. You know what, M blank? Um, you might be able to on the older Mac Mini models. I don't know. I haven't tried. All right. I want to bring in the actual services that I've created. Oh, nice. So the answer to Mblex question is yes, you can replace them. Sweet. That sounds like you got a nice little setup there, Mars. All right, so we want to create a bootlegger. We got to load the system config, build the utility provider, all of this stuff. So let's go grab this method. And I am going to copy because I've got a console app that I was using during development. And now I'm standing up all of the capabilities on that console app inside an ASP.NET Core API application. So there's that. Back to the console app. I'm going to need to read the configuration because I've got a fairly complex configuration setup. So there's the bootlegger. Let's just make it private. And we'll pop down here. Paste. Oh, what's going on? Okay. Using .NET Env. And that's all happy now. Oh, it screwed up the indentation. Here we go. There's that. We can collapse these guys. And let's see here. Var bootlegger. Let's grab these fellas. Copy. paste. So I've got my bootloader, I've got my system config. Back over here. Now, global utilities. Build service provider, okay. That's right. So I am using 2 DI containers. And down here in the console app, I've got to do things a little bit differently than I do in the ASP.NET app. Paste this in here. Fix this stuff up. And I don't necessarily want to do Service Builder. And this utility provider is going to hold the ambient services that are available throughout the ASP application. I got to come down here and configure logging for real. I'll put you down here. B. And I got to fix my indentation. Run down here. Bump out by 1. Yep, that looks good. That looks good. Okay. Now in here, I am going to pass in the web application builder. So system config, ilogger, bootlog, web application builder, app builder. Service builder equals configure logging. Service builder equals app builder dot services. That's my iService collection. We're going to make it void. I'm going to get rid of this. And I also need to add service builder dot add HTTP client. Just a generic one so that we've got access to the HTTP client factory that'll be used by dependencies of the client when they need to make a HTTP connection to a remote service. So I'm going to rename this symbol or this method to add utility services. And we're going to return a web application builder. return app builder. Yep, that's what I want to do. Save. And last thing I want to do this morning is debug this guy. Builder equals add utility services, pass in all the stuff. I'm going to break right here, and I want to inspect the service collection. So we'll debug. Start new instance. And our terminal is going to do some stuff. And we're getting log events during the build-up process. Global logging added to shared services. Beautiful. So I should be able to look at builder.services. We've got all kinds of them, like 120 of them, most of them coming in from various Microsoft extensions. And I'm not going to plumb through that whole list. That's goofy. But that's great. And down here we can add, because we've got our handy dandy little bootlegger. Bootlegger.log information. Configuring API endpoints. There we go. And I think I might switch the bootlegger stuff off to use log trace, but I haven't put that much thought into it. So we're at an hour. I am going to break for a couple hours. I'll be back at 1. Mars, thanks for hanging out again, man. It's nice to see you again. And Mr. Blenchewicz, or Blenchewski, I'm not sure how to pronounce your name. Polish always just trips me up, man. Thanks for popping in. It was nice to see you. And I'll be back at 1. I might keep going, bringing in my application architecture framework into the API application, just in between stuff, or I might fall back into doing some lemon squeezy research, figuring out object models and stuff like that during the break. So thanks for hanging out, and until next time, take care of yourselves, and happy coding. Hopefully see y'all again. Bye now.